putting my years as a stripper to good use. It's time for the most seductive show on the airwaves. I'm Allie Donovan, and this is Raw Dialogue. Good evening. Welcome to the program. This is Raw Dialogue, the program in which I practice the art of seduction through information. And what could be more neuro-tantalizing than tonight's topic? The science of pleasure. Consider this. If most all of our behaviors and emotions are the result of neural chemistry triggered by our environment, then to what extent are we slaves to our neurotransmitters? To what extent do you control your brain chemistry and sexual tendencies? All this and more on tonight's program, but best of all, you don't have to take my word for it. Psychologist, neurologist, researcher Andrea Kuchevsky will be joining us shortly to lend her professional expertise on the topics. I don't know about you, but I find human biology absolutely fascinating, especially with regard to the workings of our brain, mind-body relationships, theories of consciousness. I think, therefore I am, as Descartes put it. I know they say space is the final frontier, and it makes sense that, we would say that, but, the human mind and its connection to our physical experience and our abstract individual personalities is really a concept which has infinite variables and more than a few unanswered questions. Far more than a few, in fact. Far more than a few. I don't think most people have any idea the miraculous piece of machinery we have between our ears. I mean, really. According to Dr. David Eagleman, who directs a neuroscience research laboratory at Baylor College of Medicine, this is what he says about it, okay? The brain is the most complicated structure we have ever found in the universe to date. And while we are making great strides in understanding the structural mechanics of how the brain works, we still have no working theory to explain human consciousness, the private experience we have in our minds. Just to give you a glimpse at the complexity of the human brain, consider the following information I pulled from NursingAssistantCentral.com. Your brain consists of about 100 billion neurons and anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 synapses for each neuron. There are 100,000 miles of blood vessels in the brain. During the early stages of pregnancy, a child's neurons develop at a rate of 250,000 neurons per minute. While you're awake, your brain generates between 10 to 23 watts of power, which is enough to power a light bulb. Each time you blink, your brain kicks in to illuminate the darkness so that the whole world doesn't go dark with each blink. That happens about 20,000 times a day. It appears as though the average number of thoughts a person experiences every day is right around 70,000. Your brain can produce information as fast as 268 miles per hour. I'm not really sure what that means, but it sounded like a really fascinating statistic. And this one will get you really scratching your head. Okay, studies show that your brain waves are more active while you're dreaming than while you're awake. But what about pleasure? How does the brain interpret erotic and sensual experiences? Why are these experiences actually necessary for your overall health? And what distinguishes these experiences on a neurochemical level? Our guest joins us on the other side of this break. To break it down, your calls later in the program. I'm Allie D, and you're listening to Raw Dialogue, the home of information seduction on News Talk 720 KDWN. It's estimated that 25 to 30,000 shelter animals are killed in Clark County, Nevada each year. And of those animals, more than 65% of the dogs euthanized are identified as pit bulls. The majority are gentle, loving pets who are abandoned to the streets or surrendered by their owners. They are killed simply because the shelters do not have enough room to keep them all. It's a devastating situation, and it's made worse by irresponsible pet owners. If you're looking for a family pet, no matter what kind of dog you desire, Bully Buddies of Las Vegas would like to urge you to take in a rescue animal and help just save some of these precious lives. If you have a heart for bullies and would like to become a foster home, volunteer, make a donation, sponsor a kennel, or get information about this breed, please visit www.bullybuddyslv.org. That's BULLIE buddieslv.org. And always remember, animals are a lifetime commitment. Please continue to be a responsible pet owner. You're listening to Raw Dialogue. I am your host, Allie Donovan. Don't forget to follow the program on the web at rawdialogue.com and send your emails to askallie@rawdialogue.com. In the second half of the program, I'll give out the number if you want to call in with your questions or comments for our guest. And with no further ado, our guest tonight is Andrea Kuchevsky. Andrea is a behavioral therapist and consultant, science writer, and researcher living in the San Francisco Bay Area. Her background is in cognitive neuroscience and psychology, with expertise in Asperger's syndrome or high-functioning autism. Andrea works as a researcher with Vortex Research Group. Her main research interests are intelligence, creativity, and learning in both humans and machines. Her current efforts are focused on new alternative education paradigms based on the science of learning. Andrea, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Andrea, it's so nice to talk to you.
Yes, hi, how are you?
I'm very good. So I don't know if you wanted to, your experience is pretty lengthy, actually. I mean, this just covers the tip of it, really. I mean, did you want to expound upon your background a little bit, your professional experience?
Well, I've done a little bit of everything. Well, currently I'm focusing on education, but I've worked as a behavioral therapist with children on the autism spectrum. I've done research consulting for companies, which is actually how the Science of Pleasure came about through a project that I worked on. And I am, well...
are you able to...
you didn't need me to get into all that, but...
No, it's okay. I was going to say...
I am focusing on education and learning, yes.
Okay. So education as in, are you working specifically with autism and Asperger's?
Actually, all kinds of learners, tailored to the specific type of learning for each child, instead of like one teaching paradigm that teaches all the students. It's looking at how individuals learn and how you can maximize each individual student's achievement.
Can you actually stick individual students into categories, do you think, or is it just so far all over the map that you really have to take them all one at a time?
It's pretty individualized at this point, because I've done mostly like one-on-one and small group teaching. So we're hoping to get it to that so that it can be scaled up from there. But I don't label like types of learners. It's more how does each individual child learn best, and then find a way to tailor the program to fit what they need.
Okay. So before we get into the science of science of pleasure, maybe you could talk about the brain with us for a minute and help us kind of have a better understanding about it. What is the function of the brain as an organ? Okay,
well, first of all, it's important to understand that everything we do changes the brain in some way. You hear all these articles that come out like, looking at pornography changes your brain, playing games changes your brain. Well, everything changes your brain. No matter what you do, think about, perceive, behaviors you engage in, every single thing changes your brain in some way, either small or large. But then on the other hand, whatever state your brain is in also affects your behavior. So it's kind of like a two-way street. So there's really no separating the two. It goes both ways.
Okay. So would you say that the brain is designed to learn?
Absolutely, and it's constantly evolving and adapting, which is what one of the challenges with artificial intelligence is. You create a model of the brain at one state in time, and it's going to be changing as soon as you introduce any kind of stimulus. So it's constantly changing, constantly evolving.
So the idea of you can't teach an old dog new tricks is just a bunch of lies.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, so the idea that you can't teach an old dog new tricks is just a bunch of lies.
Oh, it is, yeah.
I'm just
absolutely.
Curious. Okay.
Yes, you can still, the brain is still very plastic even into adulthood, more than we used to think. Obviously, childhood is the prime time for learning, but you can still learn as an adult, yes.
Okay, so now this is kind of maybe not necessarily off topic, but how is the brain related to the mind? Are our distinctive personalities, is there a difference between what we consider the mind and the brain? Are they one and the same?
You know what? I'm one of those people that thinks that you really can't separate them.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they're so interrelated. You can't say, like, well, his brain was in a certain state, therefore he's not responsible for his behavior. Well, you can't really do that because you can't separate them. They're interrelated, so it's not like because your brain is in a certain state, you're not responsible. You do have some control over your brain states.
Yeah, your state of mind.
You have control over behavior. I'm not one of those people that doesn't believe in free will. So.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So It's just bizarre, though, because the mind is such an abstract thing, you know? I mean, it's like, can you really place it, like, in a physical place, or is it just something that we know is a result of the chemistry that happens in our brain?
It's kind of, I think of it more as an emergent quality that comes from, you know, the combination of brain and experience, and that's what we consider the mind. It's not really something you can touch. It's more like an emergent set of behaviors.
Is it true? I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with this doctor. Where's that quote? It was, oh yeah, okay. So I don't know if you're familiar with this. It was Doctor. What was it? I can't find his name. It's Eagle something or other. Oh, I'm just killing me right
Eagleman?
now. Yes, thank you. I'm like, where are my notes? Okay, yeah. I mean, then this concept he has that, you know, I had mentioned earlier that we still don't have a working theory of consciousness. I mean, is that true then to that extent that we don't necessarily have it all worked out as far as the brain is concerned?
No, we don't, and it's still largely a huge mystery. You know, we may never know everything there is to know about the brain, but that doesn't mean that we can't learn about the brain and be able to predict behaviors based on what we do know. You know, just because we don't have the whole entire thing figured out, it doesn't mean we can't observe changes that occur as a result of, you know, experiments or observing different actions and watching what happens to the brain during those actions and then make predictions about future behaviors. You know, we can do that, and we can devise treatments based on that. But that doesn't mean we know everything about the brain. So, you know, as a researcher, and especially in the field of neuroscience, you kind of always have to be open to whatever we say is true today may not necessarily hold next week. So, you know, when it comes to writing about science, you know, because I'm a science writer, we have to be really careful when we talk about neuroscience because there are no hard and fast, this is always true. You know, there is always a chance that things could change. So it's kind of like, well, there's a tendency to see A, B, and C, but you know, that's what research shows right now.
Yeah.
So there's never just, yeah.
I was thinking, you know, I mean, it seems absolutely insane. I was reading over some of your articles, which they're really great, by the way. But one thing I remember thinking to myself is that it's like, it doesn't seem like you could ever conclusively actually say anything all of the time because we're so affected by, you know, how we react to different things in our environment. You know, so it's like this, one is not conclusively the other. Like, you know, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it like, you know, did your reaction come first, or did the brain chemicals make you feel that way? You know, it is bizarre. So
yeah, it goes both ways, and it really does.
Go ahead.
And because it's actually such a mystery is what makes it so interesting. You know, which is why I like to research that because you know there's always something new to learn.
Do you ever think that we'll actually have artificial intelligence? Do you think we'll ever actually recreate the workings of our brain in a way that it learns and everything today?
Very interesting question.
Kind of a speculative question, but you know, I figure you know what.
Yes, that's a huge debate in the AI world right now. I have to say that I am optimistic that we could someday reach a level of intelligence that is human-like. I'm not sure that we will ever fully recreate